And we have breaking news. James Kleimann, managing editor at Housing Wire, fresh off being named a mortgage maverick. Look at this. This hit LinkedIn today. Congratulations. Would you like to thank anyone?
Yeah, whoever nominated me, thank you. That's very kind of you. I appreciate it. I'm not good with praise. But I'm honored to be recognized as someone who's important enough to be nominated for something like this. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So
Absolutely.
thanks very much.
We celebrate these trailblazers with the Praxis Lending Solutions Mortgage Maverick Award. Says a lot of nice things about you, buddy. It's good to see you, James. How are you?
Good to see you. I'm okay. Yeah, I've recovered from my travel hellscape, and I'm back in Brooklyn and hanging out with the kids, the family, just recovering from, conferences are so exhausting. They're fun. They're really exciting. I get to meet so many interesting, cool people that are doing fantastic stuff in the housing space. But it's hard. Like, there's 16-hour days, and then you travel, and then you get home, and it's just a lot. It takes a little time to kind of decompress and recover.
Well, you had some travel challenges, as did my executive producer, Donna Chichevsky. You should hear, it was total hell for her. Let's see if she'll jump on here. Let's see how much she's paying attention. Let's compare.
I always pay attention.
Let's compare travel horror stories. Donna, ladies first.
All right. So I left Colorado Springs, and there were a ton of storms in Atlanta. So we had to kind of fly around, and then we were running low on fuel. So I had to divert to Birmingham. Then when I got to Atlanta, the flight was delayed multiple times, and finally boarded the flight, only to then have to deplane because the pilots timed out. So that was around 12 a.m. Then got rebooked on the 6 a.m. flight. So basically spent the night in the Atlanta airport. We got vouchers, but at that point, every single flight was pretty much delayed in the Atlanta airport, or almost all. And so all of the hotels were booked up. So the voucher basically did nothing.
So you stayed in the airport, right? Did you fall asleep?
No, actually, I befriended a couple of other guys that were on the same flight as me, and we just kind of talked all night. One of them actually went over to the Dunkin' Donuts that wasn't opening until after the lounge opened at 4:30. This was about 3:30, and bribed the woman that was trying to get things prepped for about, I think, $40 for 3 cups of coffee, and she gave us the coffee.
Oh my! All right, so there was a small silver lining.
Yes,
James, your turn.
Oh no, I can't top that one. I have creature comforts, and so my flight was scheduled to leave the final day at 3:30, 3:45 in Colorado Springs, make it to Denver, which should be like a 40-minute flight, right? And then back to LaGuardia in New York. And I thought I'd have no problems. I had an hour and a half, time between flights, so I should be okay. But my flight from Colorado Springs took off 5 hours later. And the cited reason was weather. And there was a little bit of a storm for about 20 minutes in Denver. But the real reason I found out later is that they didn't have enough air traffic controllers. So it's basically like the Newark airport problem. And they don't give you vouchers for that. So I didn't get anything. I missed my flight, the connecting flight back to LaGuardia. So I had to spend the night in Denver. So I didn't have my bag either because I checked it like an idiot. And so I took the next flight the next day.
So what did you have? You just had that satchel that you carry around with your computer and a couple of notepads?
Yeah, that's it. That's all I had.
Did you go clothes shopping or anything, or you just repeat?
No, I just wore that.
Oh my! I'm glad I wasn't sitting next to you on that plane.
I showered.
I don't mean to rub it in, but my nonstop from Denver was just fine. Although I did get in the Uber, and it said that the ride to Denver from Colorado Springs, which is supposed to be about an hour and 20 minutes. I looked on his Waze, and it said 2 hours and 50 minutes. And I'm like, whoa, don't go anywhere. Are you sure we're going to the right place? The guy was so irritated with me. Basically, I said, stop. He would not stop. So imagine you're in an Uber. The destination is twice as long as you're supposed to go on in terms of the trip. And you ask the guy to stop, and he keeps going and basically gives you an attitude. Well, about 2 miles up the road, he made a left turn, and then it just reset itself to the proper calibration, and off we went. So
Yeah, that'd be scary. Like, where's
The
this?
event was pretty good. The Housing Wire gathering. Look, talk about dirty clothes. I'm not. If I told you I haven't taken this off in 3 days since the gathering, would you believe me?
Yes, I would.
This was a big hit. You see this right here?
It's cool. Yeah, I like it.
Donna gets full credit for the design, and she has a printing machine in her house, and she's a whiz. So if anybody needs anything printed, you know where to go. Cups, notebooks, shirts, shorts, hats, right?
I don't know.
I might take her up on that.
All right, well, let's talk about the event.
All right, peace out.
That's it?
Well, I don't think I'm supposed to be on stage the whole time.
Why not? I like you on stage. I enjoy your presence.
Fine, I'll stick around.
I know James does too. You guys are like good friends. So, well, let's talk about what stood out to us at the gathering. I can go first.
Sure. Yeah.
Just such a powerful event. It's the kind of thing where you have to be there to really understand the magnitude of the momentum and mojo you feel in those rooms, in those hallways, at the dinners, on the pickleball court. This one's going to be hard to top. I know that Clayton wrote a post about people coming up to him saying, how are you going to top this? And that's a challenge, he admitted, right? Because it just keeps getting better and better. Just very impactful. Love the mix of real estate people and mortgage people. And if I had to nail down my favorite sessions, I really enjoyed the session on the last day hosted by Laura Hopkins, the MBA Empower session. Mm-hmm. My colleague, Latasha Wadi, got to step onto the stage. It's pretty much the first time she's been on stage. She's written a children's book recently. And I just love seeing her up there with the other ladies and the stories that they shared about being a mom, basically having 2 jobs, cutting through all the bias in mortgage, which is male dominated, and landing on their feet and being an inspiration to others. I found that just remarkable and really, really enjoyed that. A couple other sessions, obviously the one with Varun Krishna and Jay Bray and Glenn Kleimann, having all 3 of those guys on the same stage at the same time, although Varun did most of the talking. Clearly they look up to him, and I think everybody does at this point. And it's a formidable trio. I saw an article, James, either you or Flavia this morning. You guys are rapid firing, so I saw that something like the top 10 IMBs represent, was it 40% of the total market share, James, an increase of 7%?
Yeah, 44%.
Yeah, up 7%. I think we know the direction this is heading in, and we'll definitely talk about that. You had a chance to get a quote from the CEO of AnnieMac, who I know really well. It's an interesting space to be in if you're in that kind of mid-tier, which I am. Donna, what were your takeaways from the gathering?
Well, this was my second one, and it definitely was amazing. Last year, I would say, I don't know that anything could top last year's for me, though. And I think there was just this electricity in the air because of the Green Book, like having that moment, like being able to meet all the co-authors that were part of it was just something special for me. And Greg, I know, like, obviously you were part of it too. And so like we got to meet there. Well, technically we met at the event right before it, but it was just something else to be around everyone else that co-authored that book. And then we just had like this bond, and we just all had such a blast together. And so that we didn't have that this time around. I know there was another group that were there that got to experience that. And so I'm sure they had that moment during this event. But so I kind of did miss that this time around, I have to admit. But it was still another amazing event and still one of my top favorites. Like, absolutely. The gathering just has this energy like none other. And it's the quick sessions, the great panels, the fact that everyone's in the same hotel, the same room, at the same events. That's huge for me. I feel like the networking is just like none other.
Yeah, for sure. Agree with that. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Once you break the seal and you experience it for the first time, you get that maiden voyage over with. It's hard to replicate that. Yeah. I think we all feel that to some degree, right? James, what do you think, buddy? You sat in on roughly, a little more than half the sessions. You've got deadlines and meetings and your own things that you're doing there, which is the whole nature of the gathering. And I know it's important to Clayton and Diego, Brenna, and everybody else, that people do have a balance, that you're not just glued to your chair and you are developing relationships.
Yeah, I think if you spend the entirety of the event just at the sessions, you're going to miss out on a lot of great opportunities to get to know people, to get to meet people, to kind of experience this shared hope for the housing industry. And more than just the events themselves, that's what sticks with me, is that everyone that I spoke to was very genuine in wanting to do better and wanting to think about solutions that maybe we haven't quite presented yet to the marketplace, and thinking about new ways of helping people, with the biggest transaction of their lives. So that's what stood out to me. I learned a lot about kind of not like the general core stuff that I write about, which is usually mortgage, but I learned way more about title insurance. I learned more about the digitization of records. I learned a lot about appraisal and AVMs and, companies that are doing like fractional equity and shared equity plays, and just a lot of the stuff that's maybe a little bit on the periphery from a news perspective that I think offers some potential for the future that we don't talk enough about right now. And then just like in general, I travel a lot, as you know, Greg. I go to a lot of the events. I go to DC pretty often. I'm on the road all the time. And when you go to a lot of the same events, you see a lot of the same people, and you develop, bonds with people. You ask about their kids, you ask about, just things that are going on in their lives, and you get to know them different than just, oh, that's the lady at the Solidify booth, or, oh, that's the person who does marketing at this company. And so I think there's a camaraderie, and also I think there are probably more sales opportunities, which is why people are in a better mood than this, going to the same other events where it's literally the same exact people the whole go. And it's just, oh, okay, this is my 8th attempt at trying to get this company to sign on with my service. Like there are now real estate people, there's appraisal people, there's title people, there's new home builders, there's tech people, you have a big, big tent. And so I think there's kind of a new energy there. And so, yeah, and everyone behaves well from what I can tell, which is nice.
Yeah, the vendors are highly respectful. I walked through that floor, just so everybody knows that wasn't there. There's like the main room, and then you walk out into a foyer area where all the vendors are, and you have to walk through there to get outside. I must have walked back and forth easily 50 times over the 3 days. Not one time did somebody stop me to say, hey, check out my product or whatever. Now, that made me want to talk to them even more. So I did go up to a few people and say hello. It was just really powerful. And Jennifer Beeston, who I had a chance to interview, I thought she was excellent. It's the first time she had hit the stage as well, talking about.
Was her first time?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
Wow.
She has some presence. She has some presence, doesn't she?
Yeah, you would not know that. I mean, and I was going to say, and not because, you're on this call, but or because it's your show, that was probably my favorite session. She just killed it.
She rocked it. She was nervous behind stage. She's like, I'm really nervous. What are we going to do? What are you going to ask me? I'm like, I'll come out and make a joke about myself. And all of a sudden, all the nerves are going to go away. And so I came out. We had this chair, which, I'm not a tall guy. I think most people know that. And the chair is like a deep chair. So I went out and made a self-deprecating joke about, do I lean forward so my feet can hit the ground, or do I go all the way back and you can watch my feet dangle? And as soon as that happened and Jen smiled, she was off to the races. And she says that we have a crisis in America, that we have a PR issue. And I believe her, in hearing her case that she made, that we talk way too much about what's stopping people from getting into homes, high interest rates, low affordability, those things, that we talk too much about that. And then the mainstream media grabs a hold of those headlines and they run with it. And what that does is it stokes fear, skepticism. Kind of makes sense. It was interesting when I made the post about that. A lot of people jumped in. They're like, well, it's the truth. And I'm like, you don't understand. No one said to lie, but do we need to be talking as much as we do about the headwinds? Yeah, I'm curious, Donna, what you think about that.
we need to focus more on the positive for sure.
Yeah.
There's too much focus on the negative. I mean, and that's how media always is though, right? Like when you turn on the news, everything's about the negative versus focusing on positive, good stories.
People like ambulance chasing. Remember the
Exactly.
O.J. Simpson days? I'll admit I was much younger, and I never left the TV when O.J. was getting chased around in that Bronco. James, what do you think?
I think there's a lot of truth to what Jen says. I think a lot of it is about framing. It's about thinking about opportunities and highlighting them. And I think the industry doesn't do the best job of that. There
Great.
are a couple companies that have big marketing budgets that are doing, I think, more positive, aspirational marketing and advertising. Rocket's probably the best known with their series. And I imagine they're going to have a pretty powerful Super Bowl ad once they greenlight that for next year. But there are economic realities. I mean, we can't ignore the fact that inflation is up 25% over the last 5 years, but wages have only gone up half as much as that. And we have all these lock-in effects with the issues that we have. We don't build enough housing in this country. There are reasons that there are negative headlines. It's not coming from nowhere, but in a lot of cases, they're not insurmountable. For some people, yes, they will be, and they'll just be relegated to the rental market. And that's unfortunate because, again, we haven't built enough with what we have. We have pulled the ladder out from others. But there are so many people now who could take advantage of different products, who could have more creative financing options, who could look at alternative models on the real estate agent side instead of paying a 5%, 6% commission, And so I think there are opportunities to reframe the message, but you're not going to get everybody. And that's because in general, like there is some truth to the negativity. It's if you're trying to quote somebody a 7.4% mortgage right now, like, I'm sorry, but that sucks. Like it just does.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah,
temporary. It's temporary.
Sure.
agree.
Yeah.
But
And people said that 3 years
also,
ago too. And here we are,
I just want to add, there is truth to those, yes. But then also sharing some of those inspiring stories can also help others realize that they can also have that dream as well. Like I know some brokers out there, some LOs out there that have been able to put a 88-year-old woman into her first home. And having that type of story put out there, shared with the world, like that could inspire someone else who maybe thought that they could never have that same dream come to fruition actually happen, right? And so like you look at a story like that and you go, wow, that is truly inspiring. Put it out there. Share
Yeah,
it
for
with
sure.
everyone.
It does seem like we're at an inflection point, though, with inventory rising. I'm seeing a lot of houses in my neighborhood coming on the market. I know a lot more are getting there. So it just seems like the timber is there. Like it's not going to take much to start an inferno. Whereas when we talked about it a year ago, James, or 2 years ago, and we said, oh, yeah, we think we're going to turn the corner, the inventory didn't look anything like it's starting to look like now. So it just seems like we've got the kindling. And I wrote about this a couple of days ago on my LinkedIn. All signs do point to a break in the economy. And that was before it broke out in the Middle East between Iran and Israel, and oil prices going up and problems domestically in Los Angeles with the National Guard and that whole thing. Without politicizing things, it does seem like there's just a wall of pressure being pushed against the economy, yet the consumer, James, still doing, I guess, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends. Are you a half glass full, half glass empty kind of guy? On the inventory question, it is unequally distributed, right? So it's the areas in which we've had large segments of home builder activity. So generally the Sun Belt, so Florida, Texas, we're seeing huge inventory gains there. We're also seeing builders that are offering pretty significant incentives to get people to buy them and are paying agents very well. They're offering mortgages in the 4s and the 5s because they're vertically integrated, and maybe they just don't need to take a 40% margin to get it done, which that's tough sledding for the rest of the industry. So we're disproportionately seeing the activity. We're not seeing it where I am in the Northeast. We're not seeing it on the West Coast. We're not seeing it in the areas where some of the kind of the larger long-term systemic issues with inventory are more acute. So yeah, we're seeing definitely more activity in the Sun Belt, and that's good. There are still people who can move to North Carolina, where my parents moved to the exurbs. There's a lot of opportunity in other parts, but it is very specific, I think.
Let's talk about opportunity in the mortgage space. Consolidation. We saw Fairway with an acquisition, and I want to know what you're hearing out there, James. I know that you've got your ear to the street. Do you expect another wave to hit us here pretty soon?
I think we're going to continue to see some of these smaller lenders get scooped up. The reality is, if you're doing under $250 million a quarter, you're in a really difficult position. You can't scale and cover all the costs equally, and you can't do it at the same level as someone much bigger. So that's a challenge. I expect we're going to see the $500 million a year shops, similar to the one that Fairway just acquired out of Indiana. I think we're going to see a lot more of that activity. And that's really more by circumstance than by, like a shared vision that they, are going to enter the new chapter of their life. They're probably going to become more like, almost like teams. I also think we're going to start to see some companies move away from certain channels and get more into the wholesale and, non-Dell kind of business. It always surprises me when I talk to people who are in that wholesale space, just how quickly some of these companies just open up and are doing a couple $2 billion a year. I mean, that's incredible to me that some company I've never heard of is doing like $2 billion in like a mini core model, right? And so I think we're going to see a lot more of that because there's a lot more flexibility in those models, and we're probably not going to be seeing as much enforcement from the CFPB. So some of those LO comp questions maybe won't be as relevant. So yeah, I think we're going to continue to see M&A activity. I don't know that it's going to be like it was a couple of years ago, but certainly I think we'll hear a lot of conversations, but maybe not as much the big players. I don't think we're going to see another Redfin Rocket Mr. Cooper deal for quite some time.
You don't think Zillow and Loan Depot, you don't expect those two names to fold into some other opportunity? One of those names or both of those names maybe together?
I think Zillow could. I think it makes a lot of sense when you look at their business, when you look at kind of the goal here is, right, they want to attach everything. They want to have the super app where they're adding home financing options. And by the way, that's a lot more lucrative as a business than just the flex agent business. It's almost twice as profitable. And so I think taking their model and accelerating it makes a lot of sense if you consider the size of their opportunity. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did. I don't know if they would pick up Loan Depot. I mean, on paper, it kind of makes sense to me, but I'm not sure either one wants to go that direction. So
that stock's been going up, by the way. I pointed it
Yeah.
out a couple of times. I don't know if it's been going up, talking about Loan Depot, because it's just been so down or what. But
I mean, it's going from a very low ebb, right? Like, it's not like it was at $6 a share and now it's 20. I mean, it was not good.
It's up 8% today.
Okay.
And it's up to $1.45. It's up 10 cents, which those are small. Those are obviously really, really small numbers. I can't believe I'm still going to ask you about trigger leads because we've been talking about this. This is another thing we've been talking about forever.
Yeah.
It's been passed by the House, the Senate. What's next? And what is the obstacle we don't see that is probably going to present itself?
So yes, you're right. The House passed a version of a trigger leads bill. The Senate did the same. They're similar bills, but there is one major thing they need to reconcile, which is in the House, they are requiring a study on, I don't even know how they would measure this, but basically whether we should allow any company to use trigger leads via text. So not phone calls, not, I guess, other forms of communication. I can't think of anything now aside from, phone and text, but so they're going to be studying that. I don't think it's going to hold up the process. I expect that the bill will be signed by President Trump sometime this year, and then it would be 6 months after he signs a final bill, and then it would take effect. And when it does, it would mean that the servicer and the originator of the mortgage, sometimes they're different, as you know, they would be able to send uh, messages for a refi opportunity, but a trigger lead broker shop in the middle of wherever, Kansas or something, they wouldn't be able to do that.
Did you see this?
No.
Can you see this?
Yes.
So Bill Pulte, this was about a week ago, had a good meeting with the CEO of Credit Bureau Equifax. It was super constructive. I appreciate his approach. We want to be invisible to companies as long as we enforce our statutory and legal obligations. Some companies and their CEOs make it easier than others. I mean, when I see something like that, I don't know. Maybe I have, bad memories, but that seems to me like not a good thing if Bill Pulte is liking what he's hearing from Equifax. I mean, could that end well? I don't know. Doesn't seem like it could, but who knows?
He's very online. He's got a big bully pulpit. Maybe that's part of a negotiation. It's kind of hard to know without being in those meetings. I can tell you that most of the trigger leads right now, they don't come from Equifax. They don't come from TransUnion. They come from Experian. They are by far and away the largest purveyor of trigger leads. They are probably the only one who will be significantly affected by this legislation. And then, of course, there are all the broker shops, and there are, generally speaking, broker shops, consumer direct broker shops in Michigan and Kansas, and they're doing 95% of their pipeline are FHA or VA trigger leads. And, they're, in some cases, they're doing $1 billion, $2 billion, $3 billion a year, mostly through these products. And so if that goes away, they're going to have to pivot. They're going to have to really reconsider their business model. They'll be the most by far.
Yes.
Hi there.
Hi.
Would you like to ask this mortgage maverick a question? Or are you good?
About trigger leads or about anything?
About anything. I mean, you have a mortgage maverick on the phone here. I mean, come on.
This is true. Well, I was going to actually comment about his use of the term mini core, and I was just going to joke about the fact that, that shouldn't be used. But I guess now with the way the CFPB is, that we can start using mini core again. But that was like so long ago.
We could say no.
All right, I'm going to jump out.
Well, non-Dell's fine, but it was a mini core, right? Like nobody liked the term mini core before. So it was bad to say mini core.
I don't care much for the labels.
Hey, James, 4 days ago from the gathering, you posted, and you're posting every day, by the way, which I really love. You talked about Bob Brooksmith, the president of the Mortgage Bankers Association, telling Sarah Wheeler that the MBA is prepared to sue. Tell us what this is. Who would they be prepared to sue, and why?
They would be preparing to sue I guess it would be the state of New Jersey. So the Attorney General of New Jersey has effectively proposed a new regulatory initiative in which they would be looking to prove disparate impact, which we know on a federal level is no longer a priority. But as I've reported in the past, a lot of the states now are kind of taking up the mantle of Rohit Chopra and some of the initiatives that he had, especially later in the Biden administration term. And so the way it would work is essentially consumer complains that you have somehow not provided them an opportunity on the basis of their race, and you would have to prove a negative. You would have to prove that you took every possible step, that you explored every procedure, you turned up every rock, and there's nothing you could have done different to avoid even an inadvertent disparate impact case.
Okay.
So it's tough because you'd have to prove a negative. You'd have to prove that you did all these things. And as I understand it, there isn't a definitive, like there are so many scenarios that one could conjure for a claim on disparate impact, but I don't know that there's a roadmap to say like, okay, well, we did this, we did that, we did this, we did this, we did that, and there could be so many different things that a company might have to consider. And so if this law were to pass, I think it wouldn't just be the CFP, it wouldn't just be the MBA that would be suing. I think there are other banking groups that would probably sue as well. But yeah, it would probably be a pretty big pretty big drain on budgets, and there is liability there, of course, right?
All right, we can move on to this post. It must have been fun being able to write a curse word on LinkedIn. Did you enjoy that? It's a
I curse
shitty.
not so I curse like a normal person does sporadically. I curse every now and then. I try to curse less often because I have little kids and I don't want them picking it up. But I do it occasionally, and I get like a fair amount of hate mail from it. People who are offended by me dropping an S bomb or something like that. So
Well, you did one here, although you were quoting Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase. Did he really say it's a shitty business?
Yeah, he did.
I think it's interesting as I look at the metrics here. You've got 92 reactions, 76 comments, 7 reposts. I'm guessing this is a top 10 post of all time for you in terms of traction. I could be way wrong. Tell me. No, not even.
No, I don't think it's a top 25 even.
But it's good. It's a strong showing though. I mean, anytime you get a post that is reposted 7 times, for me anyway, it's good. And I think when you address something like this, and then you've got the AI, what did you use for the image?
I think it's ChatGPT 4.0.
Okay,
I'm pretty sure.
It's pretty good. Did you show it a picture of Jamie Dimon and then it made this image, or you just said, show me Jamie Dimon?
Yeah, I just said, create an illustration of Jamie Dimon looking sad about the U.S. mortgage market.
Yeah, there's no misspellings in the words, which I'm pretty impressed about.
It's getting better. Every day it's getting better.
Yeah. That's one of the things that annoys me the most about creating graphics in ChatGPT or any AI.
Well, people jumped all over Jamie Dimon, like he's saying things in the thread like he's never liked the mortgage business anyway. It's just a small piece of his revenue. It's a pain in his ass. He doesn't really want to be in it to begin with. What do you think, James?
I don't think that he doesn't want to be in the mortgage business. They're obviously also a massive warehouse lender, right? But I don't think it's a priority. He has complained in the past about the regulatory climate in mortgage. He's complained about the business model. They're probably not considered the most innovative of the big banks in mortgage, and I don't expect them to be massively ramping it up. And they're, when times are good in mortgage, usually they're pretty aggressive, and when things are not as good, they're pretty middle of the road. So I think they're still a top 5 lender by volume. So it's not like they're nothing and they don't care at all. But I don't think it's a priority, especially when they have, credit cards at like 30% APRs, and, they've got all kinds of investment banking opportunities that I think are just a much bigger source. Mortgage is generally a pretty low margin business, right? So, but if they're advising on massive transactions, if they're lending money to very wealthy people, if they're looking at, different kind of deal structures, mortgage is probably not going to be the place where you're going to put a lot of dry powder. And I think that's consistent with a lot of the other big banks too.
I was just going to say, he's not the first that we've heard that from before too, over the years.
Sher from Wells Fargo, he's not exactly hopping out of his chair to, really get back in a mortgage like they used to, even when the asset cap is gone.
All right, let's do some National Enquirer stuff now.
Okay.
So Matt Ishbia, there's been some things published that the Phoenix Suns might be having a cash crunch squeeze, and this is not me, so nobody attack me, but some people have been quoted as saying that the NBA thought that Ishbia was more liquid than he is, that a lot of his wealth is not in the bank. It's in other things that are tied up. And now he becomes a partner in a group, I guess, led by his brother to buy the Chicago White Sox.
Justin.
And Rate, formerly Guaranteed Rate, has the naming rights of that stadium until I think 2030. Unpack all this for me there, James.
I think it's 2029, which would coincide with when they would be potentially publicly taking over the Chicago White Sox. Okay, so when Matt bought the Phoenix Suns a couple years ago, Bloomberg reported that the way he financed it, which is very common among billionaire sports owners, is you're pledging your stock as collateral and using that he got 2 loans to pay for the transaction, which I think at the time, I'm not a big NBA fan, was a record for the NBA. And he still maintains majority holder of UWM stock. His brother also is a significant holder of UWM stock. I think his father, Jeff, also has quite a bit of UWM stock. I don't know his brother's financial situation. I know his brother is in private equity, and they're more of kind of a mid-cap sort of company. I don't know the source of Justin's wealth. I assume it's returns from the the businesses that they're investing in through his private equity company. I don't know about the cash, crunch. I mean, UWM can't be cheap to operate. I don't think Matt is doing poorly. He's building a $77 million mansion, right? I think he's probably doing okay, but
He's a
I
beast.
mean,
He's a beast. He's definitely a
yeah, you
beast.
never really know.
I mean, I would like to just I'd like to sit at a bar with him for an hour and just pick his brain a little bit.
I bet it'd be amazing. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm going to get him on the show one of these days. I've not asked him, but I'm going to do that. Donna, I think she lives not too far from headquarters, right? So
Yep, just about
I was
15
thinking of
minutes.
maybe seeing if I could take a trip up there and follow him around for a day. The only thing I wonder about him is, it's funny. Like 3 days ago, he went back to the well and did a post. I don't know if you guys saw it, but it was repeating that study that he did that said that when using a broker, consumers save an average of 10,200, whatever the number is, which
Right.
of course is over 30 years, which is like peanuts every month. I don't know why he keeps going back to that. Like,
But everybody does this, Greg. Like everybody amortizes it over 30 years.
Is it using the Humdallar data too?
well, I just don't know why. I guess. All right, let me reframe that. I don't know why he's always pointing out that channel's better than this channel. It's just what is. I mean, does he get another consumer as a result of that? Probably not. I don't know. Maybe he does. I just, it's back to the it's back to the all of us theme. Like I just wonder if, and everybody tells me this will never ever happen. If one day he'll just take the gloves off and just be an abundance guy, try and lift as many people up as he can, regardless of the channel, encourage consumers to get the best deal for them. And if the broker channel is the best deal, then amazing. That'll show in the data. I don't think you need to say it. I don't know. You guys are both shaking your head like I'm nuts.
I think he's going to fight for the people that he believes he represents, that he, that he goes into work to fight for every day. I don't think that's going to change. And I think the broker channel does have a lot of upside. I think, Matt views the broker as his customer. And so I don't see that changing regardless of what Rocket does or regardless of, your position.
Let's be realistic here, though. He does have a large correspondent base as well, though, too.
Sure. He does.
We can't ignore that part of it.
And just generally, like the lines between broker, retail, correspondent are all very fuzzy these days. So many of these big broker shops are doing more than half their business through core. So yeah, it's
true. No,
I think that part gets buried a lot, is the fact that he does have the correspondent division.
Broker channel is going to keep getting more market share for sure.
I think so. Yeah.
And you know what? I'm okay with that. Whatever. I think that it's consumer based, and at the end of the day, brokers can beat lenders, lenders can beat brokers. It comes down to how are you serving the consumer. I mean, let's be honest.
The brokers are often offering products that the people in retail just aren't into at the moment, right? Like,
well, let me stop you there, because
people, hold on, who are clamoring for non-QM, who are diving super deep into it. But typically right now it's the brokers who are doing that.
Yeah, but a lot of on the broker side, they cannot offer DPAs.
Sure.
The down payment assistance stuff. So, I mean, I don't know, when you start peeling back the layers of what, I'm just making the statement that at the end of the day, how are your systems? What is the experience like that you're delivering to the consumer, white gloves and otherwise? Are you making them understand that this relationship that you're going into is one you hope to have for a very long time, and not just in words, but in actions, right? That you're going to back it up by continuing to be in touch and to show them opportunities as they come up. This has been amazing. James, did we go longer than you thought we would? Are you like late for a meeting?
No, I'm good.
Donna, what a surprise. Did you enjoy this?
I did. Yes. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, it's a pleasure. You're wonderful, and I like your pickleball hat. You want to give everybody a closer look at this beauty here? This was given out at the gathering.
Let's see. I gotta focus it. There we go.
I like it. Well done.
Yes. Thank you to Total Expert for
Yep.
hosting the pickleball game, and also I won the best costume award with my partner.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
All right. So I'm talking to a costume award winner and a maverick here. That's amazing. I need to come to the table with some kind of an honor next week. I'm going to work on it.
Okay.
Thank you both very much. Have a great week. James, always great to catch up with you, my friend. And Donna, I talk to you every day. So that goes without saying. We're done. We're finished. Sayonara.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.